It's October 14th, 2019, and I'm here in Novato, California with Meg Margaret Jordan, PhD, RN, and a whole bunch of more.
And lots of alphabet.
You have more degrees than it's good for a person.
That's right.
Said about me anyway.
More degrees than a thermometer.
And we have known each other for 32 years or so, sometime in the late 80s.
Late 80s, yeah, exactly.
And maybe earlier if we actually met at Lake Louise.
Yeah, that's right, 80
But
to 85.
we didn't really have much connection until the mid-80s anyway. Mm-hmm. A while. And
Thank you.
You were one of the sort of the second generation in the wellness arena.
I'd say so.
And
that makes me feel younger.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not grandma.
Not grandma. I'm not the grandma, but I'm the old aunt.
Yeah. What I want to do is pump your brain for interesting things that led to what drew you into wellness and what you recall was going on back when wellness was relatively unknown and before it got redefined to be dog food and everything else, unrelated.
The wellness mat in my kitchen.
Oh, you have a
I have a wellness mat. I love it. So it's a bouncy thing. That's what wellness is. Brings the bounce back in your step. Yeah. How did I start? I think I started in journalism. Was my first degree out of University of Illinois, and I got involved in health journalism without knowing what I was doing. And I was encouraged by friends, doctors and nurses, to go back and either get my MD or RN or something so that I could write more authoritatively about the health topics I was writing about. And I did love nursing. I loved ICU and CCU, but then I saw in cardiac care in the early 80s in ICU, CCU units at University of Colorado Med Center where I was, that we were just really patching up bodies and doing all sorts of coronary artery bypass grafts, and it just started to strike me that there was nothing preventive about any of this, that people were just doomed to have veins stripped out of their legs and attached to their hearts. And so when I moved to California in 1980 with my young family in Los Angeles, I switched from CCU and I became a supervisor of cardiac rehab. And that started to awaken me to all the movement in 1980, especially in Los Angeles, in the big heart centers, where we were saying, my gosh, we're just doing all this downstream work on people. What if we could reach them upstream a little bit more with some lifestyle behavior modification? And that was it. We all had our little 8-plan program of lifestyle behavior modification. We were going to stamp on all those cardiac rehab patients so that they weren't going to revisit us with subsequent heart attacks. And I had an awakening after about 6-7 years of working in that field that even though we were getting people to eat right and exercise and manage some stress, that we weren't attending to a lot of the psycho-emotional distress that was there. I'll never forget one patient that really struck me, and that's what drove me into figuring out more of what's going on with all the dimensions of wellness that National Wellness Institute was talking about, including emotional and spiritual and communal and environmental. And it was this one patient, he was only 48, and he had a severe anterior MI, and it was turning him into a cardiac cripple mentally. And he went back to his apartment, and he was found dead a few days later, and we were just beating ourselves up in cardiac rehab. How could this happen? He was running a 5K and sprinkling lecithin on his cereal and fat emulsifiers, and he was doing everything right. But he had just received divorce papers from a marriage that he was struggling so hard to maintain, and he was heartbroken. And somebody mentioned that in our cardiac rehab, and it was immediately scoffed at by the cardiologists,
of course,
the big cardiac surgeons at the time. Heartbroken. Are you kidding? Stop using metaphors in wrong ways. Mm-hmm. And it was,
This is before Heart Math showed.
Yeah. Exactly.
The science of the heart.
Science, and there's actual cardiac constriction and cardiac spasm from heart loss. And the Japanese had a name for it long before we did, too. There's an actual Japanese name, because we had visiting Japanese physicians who talked about it in terms of the heartbreak of overwork, where your boss does not acknowledge you. And you are a hardworking lieutenant, and you're right there doing all the good things, and going to the nightclubs all night, and drinking hard with your boss, and neglecting your family, but you don't get that appreciation from him, and you have a heart attack of complete emotional distress. So at that point, it was I've had several awakening moments, but that was one that said, oh my God, we are not looking at people as whole individuals yet. And so my retreat to the years at Lake Louise, that wonderful conference was sponsored 5 years by Campbell Soup's Health and Wellness Center. Dick Keeler and Love Metcalf were running. And that was like just a wonderful foray into, wow, what are all these other elements and dimensions of whole human beings that affect health and wellness, and disease states and chronic disease and mindsets. And I loved it there. And I loved my first work at National Wellness Institute. So I kind of came in through the side door of cardiac rehab. That was it.
Do you remember the first time you heard or read the word wellness, and where you were and what you thought of it?
It was probably writing my first editorial. I started a fitness journal at the same time because I was still a journalist, and it was for Aerobics and Fitness Association of America in 1983. My son was 3 months old, and I started American Fitness Magazine, and my first editorial, I was inspired to write about wellness. And the publisher said, this is a fitness magazine. Just concentrate on the body. And I said, well, wellness is the body. Wellness is fitness and heart and mind and social and connection. And where had I been inspired to use the word wellness? That was 1983. I think it was at Lake Louise, honestly, in 1980. So it might have been people talking about Albert Dunn's high-level wellness, but I have a feeling it was more Don Ardell, who's his book. He was there too. And Don Chu and Dick Keeler and Love Metcalf, and they were all talking wellness, really. By then, you had done it for the decade preceding, of course, on your own, but by then, I'd say there was a really good groundswell that gathered these 50 leaders in health and wellness. I was there as a health journalist at American Fitness Magazine. American Health editor was there. Rodale, some people from Runner's World were there. So they brought in people who they thought would be able to spread the message of health and wellness to the American public. And we were sort of anointed. I felt like a protege of George Leonard as he was talking about the human potential movement. We were the next generation that were going to talk about the health and wellness movement.
George wasn't at Lake Louise, was he?
No, he wasn't. I'd known about his work and met with him here in California. Yeah. But, so we were on fire with it. It just was, it was glorious. It was a way to finally stop the insanity of the revolving door of people with multiple heart attacks and strokes and everything else, and to actually look at the fact that shifts in lifestyle could make a difference. But I was also at one of the first lectures given by Pritikin down in Venice Beach. Oh my God, that poor guy, where he was, oranges and tomatoes from the food bar were thrown at him when he was suggesting that diet could perhaps make a difference. It was like, when I think of the bravery and the conviction that people had to carry in their hearts to continue work when the voices of criticism and outrage were just monumental. Monumental. But thank God for all of them. Look where we are today with statistics of, 75% of hospital admissions and doctor's office visits are stress related and can all be completely modified and ameliorated with the right lifestyle and mindset shifts. And
I was suspecting that back in the 70s when I was reading Stress of Life, what's his name? the stress guy.
Don Tubsing?
No, older than that. I'm doing my
Hans Selye?
yeah
Mhm.
on cellular stuff.
Yeah.
That was big in the actually 60s. No, early 70s.
I know. And he was looking at the stress factors, and then some work from Mind Body Institute started to come through with Herbert Benson
Mm-hmm.
and meditation, and John Kabat-Zinn, of course, followed that vein. There's so many wonderful tributaries that are coming together. Even when I moved to Vancouver from 2003 to 2006, and I saw the work of Gabor Mate, who was Hungarian-born physician who emigrated to Canada and was working with some of the most addicted populations in Vancouver. And he wrote about bodies being hungry ghosts, and looking at attachment disorders. And now that I teach at CIS, a course on interpersonal neurobiology, we really go deeply into studying the dopamine reward system and how certain pleasures in life are just wonderful at a certain scale, but the flip coin of them is full-on addiction. Addiction if that basic foundation of nurturance and care and attachment has never been met. That's where the dopamine reward system then turns from just kind of loving your occasional chocolate to full-out food addict with chocolate. And there's a lot of arguing about this too, saying, what, it has nothing to do with your attachment disorders and everything. And I'd say,
I don't.
I disagree.
People who don't understand attachment
Yeah.
would say that, yeah.
Yeah, that the body, this mind is like a hungry ghost, always looking for to fill a hole. Yeah. So, to me, I think wellness now is expanding consciousness and expanding definition. It's beautifully dynamic and flexible. I think we could adhere to saying, no, it was just these original 6 dimensions or 7 dimensions, but I don't think it is really. I think it's a very dynamic concept that allows for this larger, inclusive nature, That's my hope and dream for it. Are you willing to do that to it?
Including dog food and...
Yeah! The commercialization.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's inevitable in U.S.
To me, the positive psychology movement is much more aligned with what Halbert Dunn was talking about than most of what passes for wellness nowadays, which is warmed over medical or alternative medical approaches, which are still treatment, fixing as opposed to learning. And that's the distinction I've always made of the paradigm of the treatment paradigm is fixing problems. And the wellness paradigm is growing, expanding, and having a better life that's likely to lead to fewer problems, but it's different than prevention. And Ardell's been really big on that from the start. But the mixing of treatment with wellness has always bothered me and still bothers me.
What would you say about massage? Somebody who's committed to massage every other week. Is it a treatment or is it a self-care?
It's more of a self-care. It's generally not used like a drug or a fixing something, though.
No. See, I think that a lot of the complementary therapies fall in that gray zone.
Yeah,
they are
they're definitely
self-care.
a gray zone. But it's if you're going to an expert who's going to fix you passively, it's the pill fairy concept.
Yeah, it's still
looking to somebody else to fix me, as opposed to let's work together to grow me.
To grow me, and
along with you, it's a two-way street.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's why coaching was my next area of investigation. Because in coaching, you never impose your ideas on somebody. You always evoke from within them their best solutions, their best self-initiated action, and you support that. So to me, it made sense that coaching never evolved in medicine or nursing. It evolved in the business world, where a CEO had to talk respectfully with a coach, and the coach had to talk respectfully rather with the CEO. They couldn't impose or download. Yeah.
Back to the National Wellness Institute, which I think you were in that bunch that we all went together in the late 80s, and we had a whole dorm wing, a floor of a dorm.
Yeah.
and we were carrying on
Stevens Point.
at Stevens Point, and then I remember you gave a talk on goddess stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and you were heckled. I wasn't at it, but you were in tears afterwards because the religious right people were heckling you.
Oh, they came. No, they formed a prayer circle around me
Oh, really?
afterwards. Yeah, I think I was in tears for that. I didn't remember the heckling, but they gathered afterwards, and they were concerned for my well-being, my wellness.
Your spirit, your
My spirit, but
going
it
to
might
hell.
have been in danger. And they immediately formed this little tight prayer circle around me.
Oh,
Yeah, and excised the devil.
yes. Did it
Yeah.
work?
They amplified it. I think it backfired on them, poor things. But anyway, I've given a few keynotes at National Wellness. One was on the what I saw as my work with the fitness instinct, steel buns and other lies, combining Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, and motivation for fitness and wellness. And then another was one. Now that one I got heckled. That was a prescient, last-minute keynote I filled in for somebody, and it was called "Let Them Eat Happiness: The Growing Inequality in America."
Wow.
And I saw that there were more happiness books written the year right after 2008, the greatest financial recession since the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And there was collapsed mortgages and collapsed pensions, and people were hoping for all sorts of comfort and safety, and their dreams were just dashed. And this happened to millions, and there was betrayal of financial derivatives and stock markets and guys at the top, and this compounding of wealth to the top 0.1%. And,
Yeah.
and we were in despair as a country, and there was increased rate in suicide and anxiety and depression. And my keynote was that there's this flurry of happiness books that came out at the time. So I started to question not any conspiracy by Seligman and company, but to say, let them eat happiness. Hi, I know that all of your pensions have been wiped out and you've been laid off and there's high unemployment and everything else, but follow this 10-step process for ensuring that you have happy thoughts and positive thoughts. So I was kind of going up against Barbara Fredrickson's work, where she was saying, just make sure the ratio is 3-to-1 or 7-to-1 and life will lift for you. And I was saying, no. As I was truly a medical anthropologist at that time, by then, and I was saying, you've got to have a cultural support here. You've got to have something in the culture that looks at committed to your well-being, instead of just placing the onus squarely on the individual's shoulders. It's just up to you to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As if, and you were starting to really come into your understanding of the currency of wellness is connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having my own independent idea over here of, wow, the economy, we have been fucked over by this 0.1%. What is going on here? And we can't just be happy about it, you know? So it was my
It's
way
the
of
old
saying,
bootstrap theory.
Yes.
And it started, I think, in the crib with J.D. Watson and Spock and Skinner all saying that it improves self or independence if you don't nurture little kids, you know, hug them. And,
all that coddling, all that hugging and coddling. And
that's going to make, by not doing it, they're going to be independent. Just the opposite, by being so insecurely attached, they're going to be craving that lost connection the rest of their lives.
The rest of their lives and seeking it out in unhealthy ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And this not, you know, they were, at the time there was a company, Epson or something, I can't remember the name of it, where the CEOs knew that the stock was plummeting fast, like Lehman Brothers or something, and they walked past their executive assistants on the way to unloading their stock silently, without telling everybody in their work setting, we're going to hell in a handbasket, but I'm cashing out now. And I just thought, whoa, what has happened with this kind of betrayal of one another?
Well, the loss of the village, the loss of the extended family.
Loss of connection, loss of everything, that we weren't taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we could theorize on and solve the problems of the world. Continue to do that.
Yeah, they get solved through connection, though. We got
Yeah.
a simple remedy.
But in terms of, then you went on to become a board member and then president of the
Board member for a long time, and
National
then
Wellness.
yeah, and I offered with John that we would do co-president.
That's right, you and
Yeah.
John Munson.
Yeah, because there was a lot of good examples in feminist literature, because I have a master's in philosophy with women's spirituality emphasis on shared leadership.
Mm.
Shared leadership, sharing of power. There's a lot of great feminist writings on this. And I said, John, you could be the domestic chair and I will be the ambassador at large, and we will be co-presidents together, because you live right there in Stevens Point, and he could oversee what was going on with the budget and day-to-day management in the office, and I could be the ambassador at large and the foreign minister and shake hands everywhere and spread word. And so we had a great 3 years together as co-president and brought in a good executive director, but things shifted. Things shifted on that board, and we both left at the end of our terms.
Yeah.
And I loved my time there.
Yeah.
I loved it when it was like a summer camp.
Oh.
I
Tell me
did.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
You liberated ponds.
Yes. Well, we all did that year we went there.
Yeah. Liberated ponds, had picnics, had drumming circles. Yeah.
It was
it
a
was
summer
extraordinary.
camp for adults.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely
now
was.
it's in a hotel in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in terms of your work, you've been at CIIS, which for readers that don't know, the California Institute of Integral Studies,
Yeah.
which is a famous graduate school with some of the highest rankings. I remember when Ralph did the assessment for what the Western schools, your accrediting
yeah, for
agency.
accrediting.
You guys were like the top of the list. He said you were better than
We did
UC
well.
Berkeley.
We did well at that year. I don't know that we've maintained it every year. We've had ups and downs, financial struggles for all small to mid-sized universities. But yeah, I've been there 11 years and kind of reshaped this master's degree. When I got there, it was sort of a health philosophy degree, and nobody was getting jobs. And I kind of inserted this core of a coaching certificate. And then I spent 10 years with this national consortium launching the first national board certification for health and wellness coaches. That launched in 2017. And I had colleagues at Minnesota and Vanderbilt and Duke that were all in this together saying, well, if we actually presented a national test for health and wellness coaches, what would be on it? What are the competencies, the domains of knowledge? And who wants to join us but the National Board of Medical Examiners, which gives out the MD exam in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, and has for the last 120 years, 150 years. They called us and said, we want to give out the test for health coaches. And we said, what do you MDs want to do with health coaches? And they said, well, we are recognizing the fact that it's going to take lifestyle change to turn around this juggernaut of chronic disease.
Wow.
And so
They weren't just trying to steal it from you?
no, so it's a jointly developed and delivered test
Oh, wow.
between the National Board of Medical Examiners and the National Board of Health Wellness Coaches. We sort of combined this new nonprofit entity, and that's who delivers it. So I've had many trips to Philadelphia in those sanctioned hallways of the National Board of Medical Examiners, where you see all these crusty old guys up there that were proud of themselves for the Flexner report.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, they have a whole hallway dedicated to the Flexner report. How we ran the chiropractors out of town,
And the homeopaths.
and the homeopaths, yeah.
And the midwives.
Oh, so I'm there with my jaw open, going, I can't believe I'm here, and we're going to set them straight about health coaching. This is good.
It's interesting because back when we had the Wellness Resource Center, did you know Barbara Salsa Ray or not?
Yes, yeah, fondly.
Because she was originally my secretary, and then when I saw she knew more nutrition than me, and she was better with clients, and they didn't expect her to heal them because I had a master's in domination degree. I could magically fix them, and they didn't have those.
But Bobby could talk to them.
And
yeah, she
we
was
didn't
extraordinary.
know the word coaching then, but she was the original coach, I think.
She really was.
we called
Yeah.
it facilitating. And then
Yeah.
I remember Werner started using coaching in landmark work.
Probably.
And then it infiltrated to the business world, and now it's everywhere. But it's still, it's a
everywhere.
paradigm shift from
Yeah.
the pill fairy
from-
arrangement to the partnership arrangement.
From prescribing and fixing to guiding and facilitating. Yeah, you have to make that shift. It's easier for me to train and educate graduate students who come with a bachelor's in French literature than the ones who come from medicine and nursing.
And to undo all that.
Yeah, you got to undo. I say you got to unlearn a little bit first.
Yeah.
But I adore it. I adore teaching, coaching, and doing some on the side now too with hospital networks and other nonprofits. And it's just respectful. It's just totally respectful when you truly get in your heart that somebody's already done a lot of dreaming and scheming, and they have solutions within them, and rather than imposing what you think is best for their life, how to actually pull it out of them with a series of very skilled methodology questions. It's just, once it's under your skin, you never want to let it go. It's good. And then you start coaching family and friends, and they get suspicious of you. Are you coaching me right now, Mom? Lay off.
Yeah, I think a contract is important.
Yeah. You can't sneak it in on them.
Well, there's another area of common interest that's, to me, the fundamental component of wellness, which is creating community and the connection and groups. And back in the 80s, when Maren and I did the Wellness Associates Network, and you and Terry Allen and who were some of the others? Gail.
One of my ex-husbands.
Gay Raymond.
Gay, yeah.
And we were fostering people to start groups in different parts. There was one in Lake Geneva that was started, and another one
a
up
successful women's circle from 17 years that followed that. Yeah.
17 years, and then now, since we're both living in the same community, and I can come over to your house like this.
This is so great. And you've got one going for us. It meets every other week.
Yeah, well, when you decide to move here, and we were just plotting and scheming of who should we invite, and Meg's going to move here. Well,
it was a natural.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we get to reignite our deep work, and we tried to look at it as shadow dancing in the beginning. Remember?
Well, I still see that as a
that way.
component of being able to go beneath the surface to what's unexpressed.
Yeah.
Being authentic.
To what's projected, and how to own your projections, how to own your judgments.
Yeah. I mean, from.
Took a while to convince the group of its worth, though.
Well, yeah, some of them. Even though I screened people by sending my little write-up that I had for RMIT, and the ones that reacted negatively to it didn't get invited.
I know. And then the ones who showed up for the first few sessions
forgot that they'd read it.
This is hard work. And I feel insulted, and I don't know if I'm coming back. And because you get bruised in the beginning until you're more. Well,
once you realize that it's really it's not about blame. It's about ownership of what's broken in me and I want to heal it, as opposed to fixing other people. Again, it's a coaching model more than a fixing model.
It sure is.
Going to therapy.
And we just had a session Sunday night that was really lovely, just last night, and dear Yvonne, your partner, and myself, and then myself with you, we got to kind of easily go into it. Here's the process. Here's how you own your stuff. Here's how you look at how you contributed to somebody's annoyance, irritation, whatever it was. How did I contribute to that? What part can I take? And how do I actually sincerely apologize for that, make amends, whatever it needs to go forward as a true ally now in our mutual healing with this. And there's such a relief and a sigh when you come into that. It's a beautiful.
And that's shadow work to me.
It is for you,
It's
because
it's usually what causes an upset is me projecting my shadow onto somebody else, and being critical or judgmental because I'm trained to fix things, as opposed to looking at what's the underlying commitment that I have feelings about, that this a commitment to a value that I don't think is being shared, and so I feel angry, sad, or afraid about it. But I'm not even aware of that because I'm trained to go fix it, to make the judgment.
But overlooking that value or dismissing it, it feels like an unmet need in that moment, and it's so I think we use a bit of nonviolent communication with it. We use some good coaching and self-coaching and compassion with it. We've combined a lot of things. So is this your definition of wellness now?
It's an extremely important part of it that it gets no attention in the mainstream. It's my effort to inject a piece into the conventional domains.
I mean, I would say, I'm trying to think, because I've chaired psychotherapy departments too, somatic psychotherapy and all, and I would say the cognitive behavioral psychotherapy work works to, clean up the faulty thinking with it, but it's a deeper psychodynamic work in psychotherapy that looks at my Jungian shadow. What do I dismiss or negate about myself?
And the main sources of it out there, quotes, would be Byron Katie's work and NVC to some extent. NVC doesn't necessarily own the shadow, the projection of the shadow, but the tools are really good that we use in order to recognize that. And Susan Campbell's work, and in the Mankind Project, there is a clearing process that the ongoing groups use that own shadow as well. But it's certainly a rare thing and not something that you can just use it on strangers or casual acquaintances. It requires a commitment.
And it's cumbersome in the beginning, and it's done gracelessly sometimes, and it took us a long time to do it well. Even then, we still have to kind of nudge and have people say, it's not quite the sentence. That whole bit about you feel humiliated, that means that you're accusing him of humiliating you, so let's try that sentence again. Just getting clear on feelings. And I just taught this with grad students a couple of weeks ago, and wow, we spent forever with the request part of it too, because after you've done this kind of clearing, sometimes you have a very clear request to the other, and their requests were even being delivered with bias and judgment laced all over it. I request that you finally understand me. That was one of my favorites. Another one, what did I hear? I request that you drive in a way that doesn't drive me crazy. And I said, now how about I request that you don't exceed the speed limit? Somebody can hear that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yes, it takes a lot of allies to bring you along on this, and that's our connection. That's our connection. That's my connection I have with you.
Wow, likewise.
Yeah.
So that's about all I can think of to drag out of you. If you have any parting, we're looking at ourselves in the computer, just those of you out there in video land. That's why we're staring at the camera and the laptop that is reflecting us back at each other. So thank you, Meg. This has been fun, and I hope will be useful to whoever.
We have to end with a hug. Come here. I love being on the same level with you.
Let's do it this way.
Okay, heart to heart. Okay.
Well, so they can see both of our faces. Okay.
Bye-bye. It's nice being with you.